Bill sat alone in the hospital room beside his dying wife's bedside. It was difficult to hear her above the many life-sustaining devices as her voice was little more than a hoarse whisper. "Bill, darling," she breathed, "I've got a confession to make before I go. I'm the one who took the $10,000 from your safe in the house. I spent it on a fling with your best friend Jimmy, and it was I who forced your mistress to leave the community in utter disgrace. I'm afraid I also was the one who reported you to the IRS for income tax evasion." "That's all right, dearest. Don't even give it a second thought," said Bill. "I have a small confession too. I'm the one who poisoned you." A new bride went to her doctor for a checkup. Lacking knowledge of the male anatomy, she asked the doctor, "What's that thing hanging between my husband's legs?" The doctor replies, "We call that the penis." The new bride then asks, "What's that reddish/purple thing on the end of the penis?" The doctor replies, "We call that the head of the penis." The bride then asks, "What are those two round things about 15 inches from the head of the penis?" The doctor replies, "Lady, on him I don't know, but on me they're the cheeks of my ass." A man and a woman were having drinks, getting to know one another, and started bantering back and forth about male/female issues. They talked about who was better in certain sports, who were the better entertainers, etc. The flirting continued for more than an hour when the topic of sex came up. So they got into an argument about who enjoys sex more. The man said, "Men obviously enjoy sex more than women. Why do you think we're so obsessed with getting laid?" He then went on for several hours arguing his point, even going so far as to ask other men in the bar for their opinions. The woman listened quietly until the man was finished making his point. Confident in the strength of his argument, the man awaited her response. "That doesn't prove anything," the woman countered. "Think about this. When your ear itches and you put your little finger in it and wiggle it around, then pull it out. Which feels better, your ear or your finger?" A man was visiting his wife in hospital where she has been in a coma for several years. On this visit, he decides to rub her left breast instead of just talking to her. On doing this, she lets out a sigh. The man goes in and rubs her right breast, and this brings a moan from his wife. The doctor suggests that the man should go in and try oral sex, saying he will wait outside as it is a personal act and he doesn't want the man to be embarrassed. The man goes in, then comes out about 5 minutes later, white as a sheet, and tells the doctor his wife is dead. The doctor asks, "What happened?" To which the man replies, "She choked." Two Italian virgins marry and go on their honeymoon. Unfortunately, neither knows what to do when they get there. The newlyweds call the groom's mother for advice. The mother says that they should sit on the bed together, snuggle, and things should happen from there. The newlyweds do this, but nothing happens. The groom calls his mother back. She says they should take their clothes off, get under the covers, and nature should take its course. The bride and groom take his mother's advice, but still nothing comes to mind. He calls his mother a third time. Getting frustrated with the situation, she says, "Listen, just take the biggest thing you have and stick it in her hairiest spot." The groom is quiet for a moment and then asks his mother, "I've got my nose in her armpit. Now what?" Five men end up stranded on a tropical island. The only female around is a gorilla on the other end of the island. After 1 whole month, the guys are all sitting around and Gary stands up and says, "I'm so horny, I can't take it anymore." So he grabs a bag and storms off to the other side of the island with his pals right behind him. They catch the gorilla, each guy grabs an arm or leg, and Gary puts the bag over the gorilla's head. He climbs on top of the gorilla and begins to do the nasty. The gorilla fights and struggles and finally gets an arm free and she wraps it around Gary's back. Then she gets both feet free and wraps them around Gary's waist. She gets her other arm free and grabs onto his hips and starts pulling him in harder and harder. Gary yells to his buddies, "Get it off! Get it off!" They said, "You're on top. We can't get her off of you." Gary said, "No, I mean the bag. I want to kiss the bitch." A guy is standing at a urinal when he notices that he's being watched by a midget. Although the little fellow is staring at him intently, the guy doesn't get uncomfortable until the midget drags a small stepladder up next to him, climbs it, and proceeds to admire his privates at close range. "Wow," comments the midget, "those are the nicest balls I have ever seen." Surprised and flattered, the man thanks the midget and starts to move away. "Listen, I know this is a rather strange request," says the little fellow, "but I wonder if you would mind if I touch them." Again, the man is rather startled, but seeing no real harm in it, he obliges the request. The midget reaches out, gets a tight grip on the man's balls, and says, "Okay, hand over your wallet or I'll jump." One weekend, the husband is in the bathroom shaving when the kid he hired to mow his lawn, a local kid named Bubba, comes in to pee. The husband slyly looks over and is shocked at how immensely endowed Bubba is. He can't help himself and asks Bubba what his secret is. "Well," says Bubba, "every night before I climb into bed with a girl, I whack my penis on the bedpost 3 times. It works, and it sure impresses the girls." The husband was excited at this easy suggestion and decided to try it that very night. So, before climbing into bed with his wife, he took out his penis and whacked it 3 times on the bedpost. His wife, half asleep, said, "Bubba, is that you?" Dave's wife thinks that he is pushing himself too hard, so she takes him to a local strip club for his birthday. The doorman at the club greets them and says, "Hey Dave, how are ya?" His wife is puzzled and asks if he's been to this club before. "Oh no," says Dave, "he's on my bowling team." They sit and a waitress asks Dave if he'd like his usual. His wife is becoming uncomfortable and says, "You must come here a lot for that woman to know what you drink." "No, honey, she's in the ladies' bowling league. We share lanes with them." A stripper comes over to their table and throws her arms around Dave. "Hi, Davey," she says. "Want your usual lap dance?" Dave's wife, now furious, grabs her purse and storms out of the club. Dave follows and spots her getting into a cab. Before she can slam the door, he jumps in beside her. His wife starts screaming at him. The cabbie turns his head and says, "Looks like you picked up a real doozy this time, Dave." A guy goes fishing every Saturday morning. He gets up early and eager, makes his lunch, hooks up his boat, and off he goes, all day long. Well, one Saturday morning, he gets up early, dresses quietly, gets his lunch made, puts on his long johns, grabs the dog, and goes to the garage to hook up his boat to the truck, and down the driveway he goes. As he is coming out of his garage, rain is pouring down. It is like a torrential downpour. There is snow mixed in with the rain, and the wind is blowing 50 miles per hour. Minutes later, he returns to the garage. He comes back into the house and turns the TV to the Weather Channel. He finds it's going to be bad weather all day long, so he puts his boat back in the garage, quietly undresses, and slips back into bed. There, he cuddles up to his wife's back, now with a different anticipation, and whispers, "The weather out there is terrible." To which she sleepily replies, "Can you believe my stupid husband is out fishing in that shit?" The husband had been slipping in and out of a coma for several months, yet the wife stayed by his bedside every single day. When he came back to his senses, he motioned for her to come nearer. As she sat by him, he said, "You know what? You have been with me all through the bad times. When I got fired, you were there to support me. When my business fell, you were there. When I got shot, you were by my side. When we lost the house, you gave me support. When my health started failing, you were still by my side. When I think about it now, I think you bring me bad luck." After 37 years of marriage, Jake dumped his wife for his young secretary. His new girlfriend demanded that they live in Jake and Edith's multi-million-dollar home, and since the man's lawyers were a little better, he prevailed. He gave Edith, his now ex-wife, just 3 days to move out. She spent the first day packing her belongings into boxes, crates, and suitcases. On the second day, she had movers come and collect her things. On the third day, she sat down for the last time at their beautiful dining room table by candlelight, put on some soft background music, and feasted on a pound of shrimp, a jar of caviar, and a bottle of Chardonnay. When she had finished, she went into each and every room and stuffed half-eaten shrimp shells dipped in caviar into the hollow of all of the curtain rods. She then cleaned up the kitchen and left. When the husband returned with his new girlfriend, all was bliss for the first few days. Then slowly the house began to smell. They tried everything: cleaning, mopping, and airing the place out. Vents were checked for dead rodents and carpets were cleaned. Air fresheners were hung everywhere. Exterminators were brought in to set off gas canisters, during which they had to move out for a few days, and in the end they even replaced the expensive wool carpeting. Nothing worked. People stopped coming over to visit. Repairman refused to work in the house. The maid quit. Finally, they could not take the stench any longer and decided to move. A month later, even though they had cut their price in half, they could not find a buyer for their stinky house. Word got out, and eventually even the local realtors refused to return their calls. Finally, they had to borrow a huge sum of money from the bank to purchase a new place. The ex-wife called the man and asked how things were going. He told her the saga of the rotting house. She listened politely and said that she missed her old home terribly and would be willing to reduce her divorce settlement in exchange for getting the house back. Knowing his ex-wife had no idea how bad the smell was, he agreed on a price that was about 1/10 of what the house had been worth, but only if she were to sign the papers that very day. She agreed, and within the hour, his lawyers delivered the paperwork. A week later, the man and his girlfriend stood smiling as they watched the moving company pack everything to take to their new home, including the curtain rods.